Making the headlines tonight. The 2022 ASEAN Tourism Forum, hosted in Sihanoukville, was held and closed successfully as all participating delegates, sellers, buyers tested negative for COVID-19 upon their departure. Naga World has issued a press release stating that the company has never used union membership as a prerequisite for layoffs. The U.S. Embassy announces that the first shipment of the United States $200 million security support package for Ukraine has arrived in Kiev. Beijing Olympics organizers have confirmed 72 cases of COVID-19 among early arriving Games-related personnel. And it's teddy bear toss time. Hershey Bears fans let thousands of stuffed animals fly onto the ice for charity. This is the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Darshana Gochan. The 2022 ASEAN Tourism Forum, hosted by Cambodia in Sihanoukville, was held and closed successfully, as all participating delegates, sellers, buyers, and members of national and international media were reported to have tested negative for COVID-19 upon their departure. EAC News reporter Sraipor Kong has more details.
The Minister of Tourism, Tongkhon, has confirmed that as of January 22nd, all delegates who attended the ASEAN Tourism Forum in Sihanoukville have tested negative for COVID-19 after taking PCR tests to return to their respective countries. He added that the last group of foreigners left Cambodia after they testing negative for COVID-19 on January 23rd, and only 2 international journalists, one from the United States and one from Ireland, have stayed in Phnom Penh to continue their visit. He continued that some international delegates have sent messages of appreciation for the ASEAN Tourism Forum and thanked Cambodia for its hospitality and warm welcome. He also noted the enthusiasm some foreigners participating in the ASEAN Tourism Forum had for tourists in Cambodia, describing how a group of them also went to visit the island around Sihanoukville, the capital city Phnom Penh, and some even made their way to visit Angkor Wat in Siem Reap. Minister Tongkhon stated that the Ministry of Tourism will disseminate this good information to the region and the world to promote safe tourist destinations in the country, while the Royal Government of Cambodia has recently announced the opening of the ASEAN Tourism at the ASEAN Tourism Forum 2022. The 40th ASEAN Tourism Forum was held from 16 to 22nd January 2022 in Sihanoukville. All ASEAN member countries and the broader international community took part in the forum, including the ASEAN Secretary General, the ASEAN Tourism Minister, the World Tourism Organization, and the embassy of many other countries. Minister Tongkhon has said that the international community has commended the Royal Government of Cambodia for its true management and control safety measures to protect the well-being of participating members from COVID-19 during their visit, making the ASEAN Tourism Forum a great success. The Ministry of Tourism has also stressed that ASEAN Tourism Forum was an important event in the official reopening of tourism destinations in the ASEAN region, as well as for promoting Cambodia as a safe tourism destination after tourism in Southeast Asia have been severely disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic for more than 2 years. Sraipor Kong, EAC News.
Naga World issued a press release on 23 January, stating that the company has never used union membership as a prerequisite for layoffs, and has said that the main reason for firing close to 15,000 employees between 2020 and 2021 was because of excessive losses the company made during the COVID-19 pandemic. The press release stated that due to the serious impact of COVID-19 on the global tourism industry, many companies in the world have lost revenue and business due to a bad economic environment, and as of the first half of 2021, the company lost about $77 million. Naga World Hotel and Casino added that due to the bad business environment, the company has started to reduce some of its costs in order to continue its operations. Among these cost reductions, reducing the number of human resources was a big step the company took, especially in those areas where there are more employees than needed or an unproductive workforce. The company, which has been operating since 1995, stated that it had complied with labor laws and other rules that benefited its workers, and has implemented the mutual separation plan, which provides employees with better compensation than required by Cambodian labor law. Naga World states that 73% of the affected employees have accepted their contract termination agreement, which was made in full transparency through consultation and implementation of the calculation method in accordance with all the rules and regulations in force, the Ministry of Labor and Vocational Training, as well as all relevant laws and measures in Cambodia. The company further stated that it has engaged in mass layoffs of employees twice in 2020 and 2021, totaling 14,522 workers, including 6,548 union members. However, 360 employees have refused to accept the contract termination agreement and went on strike on 18 December 2021. Naga World added that the union has objected to the method of calculating compensation, which is not based on any rules, regulations, and relevant laws in force in Cambodia. It has now been 36 days since former Naga World employees went on strike, starting from 18 December 2021, to demand that the company take them back to work. So far, 8 people have been arrested and charged by the court for involvement in inciting serious chaos to Social Security after authorities reported finding evidence of receiving money and orders from abroad to incite the protests. On 5 January 2022, the Special Rapporteur on the Situation of Human Rights in Cambodia, the Special Rapporteur on the Situation of Human Rights Defenders, and the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Peaceful Assembly and Association issued a statement condemning the arrest and detention of Naga World Union leaders, calling the move a violation of human rights law, and called on the Cambodian government to explain the move. Immediately after, the Cambodian Permanent Mission to the United Nations, An Sokun, defended the royal government's actions in accordance with the law and in proportion to the fact that the strike of the former Naga World workers was illegal and lasted for several weeks, threatened security, order, and public safety. He added that prior to the action, the Cambodian authorities had urged the strikers to return to more peaceful and straightforward negotiations. An Sokun added that the law enforcement authorities are still protecting the rights and interests of the suspects and defendants, who have full access to a trial, including the right to a lawyer, in accordance with all procedures. He prompted the special rapporteurs to abide by the code of conduct for the special envoys and to work on what he stated were the basis of facts rather than distortions. The Ministry of Health released a statement on Monday reminding all people who will partake in preparations for ancestral offerings in upcoming festivals and ceremonies to be careful about the possibility of transmitting bird flu from animals to people in the community. EAC News reporter Robin Lim has more details.
The Ministry of Health stated that every year, some people partake in making various offerings during ancestral ceremonies, with the purchase and circulations of birds being a major aspect that may increase the risk of bird flu transmission in the community. The H5N1 strain of the bird flu virus in the animals and in the environment have been known to infect humans at any time if not properly prevented. The ministry urges people to continue their personal vigilance and duty to avoid direct interactions with livestock, animal at farm and poultry markets, entering slaughterhouses or making contact with surfaces used to cut poultry or other animals and which could thus be contaminated with the virus. The ministry also reminded citizens to be careful about congestion and crowds when buying food, poultry and other materials, and recommendations going a few days early to buy materials in advance to avoid the crowds and markets or shops on the same days of ceremonies. They also called on authorities to set up surveillances and guidance units at live poultry markets to oversee the implementation of preventative measures to curb the spread of bird flu in their communities. In addition, the ministry urges people exhibiting bird flu symptoms such as having a fever over 38.5 degrees, cough, difficulty breathing, and a history of contact with sick or dead poultry at least 14 days before symptoms began to call the emergency number 115 and rush to the nearest hospital. Bird flu is a variety of influenza caused by infectious viruses that can be spread among not only birds but also humans and other animals. The H5N1 strain is the most common form of bird flu. The disease is dangerous to birds and can easily infect humans and other animals. According to the World Health Organization, H5N1 was first detected in humans in 1997, and 60% of those infected with the disease have died. The Ministry of Health in Cambodia declared the first case of bird flu in the country in 2005, and from 2005 to 2014, Cambodia recorded 56 cases and 37 deaths from the disease. Robin Lim, EAC News.
The Battambang Provincial Administration organized a celebration for the occasion of Battambang City receiving the ASEAN Clean Tourism City Award 2022 to 2024 on Sunday. The ceremony was held in the presence of provincial leaders, with the participation of officials of the provincial hall, officials from the irrelevant departments around the province, and many members of the general public to express pride to the people throughout the provinces that have made significant contributions to this award. EAC News reporter Srai Porkong has more details.
Battambang Provincial Governor Soklu said that receiving the ASEAN Clean City Award is the pride of Battambang Province and the people of Battambang. So all citizens must unite to keep this title and let the city have beautiful, good environment as a model for the next generation to follow. Governor Soklu called on stakeholders, especially the people living in Battambang, to be more united to maintain cleanliness and improve the environment in the urban community, as well as the whole country by joining with the municipal authority to maintain order in markets and public places to ensure the city of Battambang will be a worthy city of cultural heritage, history, and smart and clean tourism. Battambang is one of the 21 cities in the ASEAN region that won an ASEAN Clean Tourism City 2022 to 2024 award. Two other cities in Cambodia, Siem Reap and Sihanouk will also receive the ASEAN Clean City Award. Srai Porkong, EAC News.
More than 200 Cambodian migrant workers were arrested by Thai soldiers and returned to Cambodian authorities through Oan Luk checkpoint in Cam Ranh district of Battambang province on Sunday. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
On the 23rd of January 2022, Thai military forces sent a total of 225 Cambodian workers back through Cambodia through Oan Luk checkpoint in Cam Ranh district, Battambang province. The returning individuals include 80 women, 41 children, officers as well as specialised police officers who have been instructed on measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19. All the workers were tested negative for COVID-19. Around 180 workers have COVID-19 vaccination cards and were allowed to return home. But the remaining 45 were sent to quarantine centre in Kilo 9, Sampol Lon district. Thai forces say they will continue to follow the principles of security along the Cambodian-Thai border to monitor people crossing over and search for illegal labour brokers along the area. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The Ministry of Health of Cambodia has decided to lift mandatory requirements for Omicron patients to be treated at the hospital and allow patients to be treated at home or at any location of their choosing. This decision was made after Prime Minister Hun Sen issued a special message on the night of Friday, 21st January, where he recommended modifying the treatment conditions of Omicron patients after assessing that the variant poses less risk than previously thought. In a press release issued by the Ministry of Health hours after Prime Minister Hun Sen released his special message, the Ministry of Health announced the decision to allow all COVID-19 patients with the Omicron variant to leave the hospital or COVID-19 treatment center if they wish to undergo their treatment at home. The press release stated, if a patient has a decent home, he or she can be treated separately from his or her family and must comply with the standard operating procedures for the management, care, and treatment of COVID-19 patients at home, with the requirement of reporting the situation to local authorities. In addition to allowing patients to stay at home, the Ministry of Health has also decided to modify the procedures for treating patients entering Cambodia who have been positively diagnosed with Omicron. The new procedures state that all passengers who are positive for the Omicron variant can also choose to receive treatment without having to go to a hospital or COVID-19 treatment center. Foreigners are allowed to be treated at the embassy hotel or other residence of their choice, while Cambodians are allowed to stay at home. The statement added, as was the case with COVID-19 Alpha or Delta patients, adhering to standard operating procedures for the management, care, and treatment of COVID-19 patients at home is mandatory. If there are health risk factors, patients may choose to seek treatment at a public or private COVID-19 hospital or clinic that is licensed to treat COVID-19. On Friday, 21st January, Prime Minister Hun Sen sent a special message on his decision to allow foreign travelers who have tested positive for the Omicron variant to be treated at home, at a hotel or embassy, and to allow all Omicron patients who are being treated at public hospitals to go home to complete their treatment if they wished. This decision came after the Prime Minister identified that although the new COVID-19 variant spreads faster, it is less dangerous compared to the previous Delta and Alpha variants. Cambodia is one of the leading countries in the region and the world in the fight against COVID-19. The country has fully reopened since 1st November 2021, and to date, nearly 14 million Cambodians have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19, equal to nearly 90% of the 16 million population. Cambodia has reported 40 new COVID-19 cases, including 15 that were imported. There have been 19 patient recoveries and once more, 0 deaths. The total number of local Omicron cases has now reached 214, including 25 new community and 15 new imported cases today. Cambodia has recorded a total of 625 cases of Omicron, of which 411 are imported and 214 are from community transmissions. Cambodia's COVID-19 case tally has now climbed to 121,066. The death toll stands at 3,015. The number of patients treated successfully since the pandemic began in Cambodia is 117,232. And the tally for imported cases has climbed to 20,268. Healthcare workers are now treating a total of 786 patients. 58 of these patients were added just over the weekend. The first shipment of the United States' $200 million security support package for Ukraine has arrived in Kiev, the U.S. Embassy has announced on Saturday, 22nd January.
The delivery followed U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to Kyiv this week, amid rising concerns from Kyiv and its Western allies over tens of thousands of Russian troops amassed at the border of Ukraine. Russia denies planning a new military offense. Washington has approved the $2 million package in December. The United States will continue providing such assistance to support Ukraine's armed forces on their ongoing effort to defend the country's sovereignty and territorial integrity against Russian aggression. Ukraine's defense minister has thanked the United States for the aid.
New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced on Sunday that she had cancelled her wedding as new restrictions were imposed across the nation to slow the outbreak of COVID-19 Omicron cases in the community. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern is postponing her wedding after announcing new COVID-19 restrictions on Sunday, following the discovery of 9 cases of the Omicron variant in a single family that flew to Auckland to attend a wedding. The red setting of the country's pandemic response includes heightened measures such as required mask wearing and limits on gatherings. The restrictions will go into effect on Monday. New Zealand will impose mask rules and limit gatherings from midnight on Sunday after the cluster of 9 COVID-19 Omicron cases showed a community spread of the virus from the North to South Islands.
As for mine, my wedding will not be going ahead, but I just join many other New Zealanders who have had an experience like that as a result of the pandemic, and to anyone who's caught up in that scenario, I'm so sorry, but we are all so resilient, and I know we understand that we're doing this for one another, and I know that will help us continue on. Oh, such is life. We don't yet have a clear lead on the index case that links this family to the border, as we have with our other Omicron cases to date. That means Omicron is now circulating in Auckland and possibly the Nelson-Marlborough region, if not elsewhere. On that basis, as we have previously signalled, the whole of New Zealand will move into the red setting of the traffic light system at 11:59 p.m. tonight, Sunday, 23 January. Our plan is simple: get boosted. Wear a mask in indoor settings and outdoors when you can't distance from others, and reduce contacts as much as practical in those environments. Omicron is now in more than 80 countries around the world. By delaying its arrival here, we've had the time to kick off boosters, vaccination for children, and prepare.
A family returned to Nelson in the South Island by plane after attending a wedding and other events in Auckland in the North Island. The family and a flight attendant have tested positive. New Zealand will move to a red setting under its COVID-19 protection framework, with more mask wearing. Indoor hospitality settings such as bars and restaurants and events like weddings will be capped at 100 people. The limit is lowered to 25 people if venues are not using vaccine passes, Ardern said. New Zealand's borders have been shut to foreigners since March 2020. The government pushed back plans for a phased reopening from mid-January to the end of February out of concern about a potential Omicron outbreak as seen in neighboring Australia. About 94% of New Zealand's population over the age of 12 is fully vaccinated, and about 56% of those eligible have had booster shots. Belgian police fired water cannons and tear gas Sunday at stone-throwing protesters after tens of thousands of demonstrators have marched through Brussels against COVID-19 rules.
Authorities have estimated that around 50,000 people paraded through the Belgian capital, the largest in a spate of protests in the city over the past months. Clashes have broke out close to the headquarters of the European Union as police used water cannon and tear gas to push back hundreds of protesters who hurled paving stones and firecrackers. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell has condemned the senseless destruction and violence after masked attackers have smashed a glass entrance at the offices of the bloc diplomatic service. Officers were later forced to seek shelter in a metro station as they were pelted with metal barriers. Police have said that around 70 people were arrested, including a dozen for more serious offenses, including throwing projectiles and damaging property. 3 officers and 12 demonstrators were hospitalized, but none were in a life-threatening condition. Belgium's Prime Minister Alexander De Croo says, "Freedom of expression is one of the foundations of our society. Everyone is free to express their opinion, but our society will never accept indiscriminate violence, and even less towards our police forces. Those involved this Sunday will be prosecuted." A sandwich shop in the European External Action Service building were damaged during the protest, with glass broken and debris inside and outside the buildings. Earlier, protesters had thrown wood at the police. Prime Minister De Croo has announced Friday, January 21, that people will need booster shots after 5 months to maintain COVID-19 passes, giving access to bars or cinemas. That 5-month limit is among the tightest in Europe. For neighboring France, it is 7 months, while the European Union-wide guide for travel within the bloc is set at 9. COVID-19 infections in Belgium are at their peak now at 40,929 new infections reported each day. There have been 2,697,239 infections and 28,780 coronavirus-related deaths reported in the country since the pandemic began.
And now for a look at news making international headlines this Monday, 21st January.
A footage shows a Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces firing at Al Sinai prison on Saturday, January 22, after they have repelled an Islamic State attack to break out inmates with the support of airstrikes by a US-led coalition. In the said footage, bodies were seen left on the pavement as SDF affiliates have clashed with what were said to be Islamic State militants. Islamic State has said via Telegram its militants have waged a wide-scale attack on the prison on northeastern Syria since Thursday, January 20, and that clashes were ongoing nearby in other neighborhoods. Islamic State has said via Telegram its militants had waged a wide-scale attack on the prison in northeastern Syria since Thursday night, January 20, and that clashes were ongoing nearby and in other neighborhoods. Guiran Prison in the city of Hasake is believed to house more than 5,000 suspected Islamic State militants, including hundreds of children, mostly Arab detainees ranging from suspected militants to civilians, in conditions civic groups say are inhumane with severe overcrowding. IS fighters use vehicles and explosives to ram through the prison walls before entering the building with heavy machine guns late last week. Prison inmates rioted and some took Kurdish guards hostage, while a number of other prison staff were killed. Syrian Kurdish forces initially said they have defeated the fighters, but they later acknowledged that inmates had taken over part of the prison. Some of the militants staged another attack on the prison on Sunday to try to help members of the group still in charge of parts of the facility. SDF General Commander Mazloum Abdi has said that the area around the prison was completely surrounded and all fugitives were arrested. In Washington, the Pentagon has confirmed the U.S.-led coalition had carried out airstrikes in support of the SDF as it dealt with the prison break. A military source in the Kurdish-led forces said they killed 23 Islamic State militants, including foreigners, in the clashes after the jihadist group attempted to free prisoners from the jail in Hasaka. Residents of the Guiran area in the prison's vicinity said intermittent fighting continued in parts of the neighborhood where some of the fleeing prisoners who had taken shelter remain. At least 5 civilians were killed during a security operation mounted by Kurdish forces in residential areas around the prison, community elders said. 7 members of the SDF and an allied security force called the ASAYES were killed in the attack, the SDF military source has confirmed. The SDF said it had detained 89 militants in the area of the prison.
A fight broke out between Congress members of Honduras President-elect Xiomara Castro's party during a Congress session on Friday, January 21st. Members of the Free Party have fought amongst themselves after Congressman Jorge Calix was elected as Congress president instead of Luis Redondo. Castro had agreed with the ally party, Honduras Savior Party, that Redondo would be elected for that position. Nevertheless, 20 of Free Party's Congress members have voted against Redondo. President-elect Castro has said the treason has been consummated. Inside the Congress floor, Free Party members have chanted Xiomara and traitors. Free Party Congressman Jerry Dixon says the assault on the Congress was planned yesterday. They were assembled with the nationalists and left behind their peers, their friends, their president, and their coordinator. Castro will take office as president next week on January 27th amidst internal tensions within the party.
And action movie star Arnold Schwarzenegger was involved in a car crash on Friday, January the 21st, that resulted in one person being taken to hospital with minor injuries, as reported by local police. The 74-year-old former governor of California and star of The Terminator was not injured in the multi-vehicle collision which involved a GMC Yukon and a red Toyota Prius with 2 other vehicles. Footage from the scene shows the Prius being towed away. There were no arrests made. A statement from the LAPD says neither alcohol or drugs were a suspected factor in this collision, but did not mention what they thought the reason for the crash. A spokesman has said Arnold Schwarzenegger was fine after being involved in a car crash that sent a woman to the hospital with minor injuries.
After the break, a look at all the latest sports news.
EAC News' audience is growing. Our YouTube channel has over 150,000 verified subscribers. To mark the milestone, we've received the Silver Creator Award from YouTube. It's given to channels with over 100,000 subscribers. YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki says the award celebrates EAC News' hard work and incredible achievement. She says we brought a unique voice and style to the world, but have also created valuable connections and built a community along the way. The next milestone we're going for is 1 million subscribers, and we'd really like that Gold Creator Award. So if you're not already a subscriber, head to YouTube and search for EAC News. Subscribers get alerts when the daily Roundup is premiering and live events are streaming. Get all the latest breaking news and updates from Cambodia in English. The EAC News channel on YouTube. Cambodia made clear. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Beijing Olympics organizers confirmed on Sunday 72 cases of COVID-19 among early arriving Games-related personnel from 4th to 22nd January. However, no cases have been reported among the 171 athletes and team officials who also arrived in that period.
Final preparations are taking place for the Winter Games amid a global surge in cases of the highly infectious Omicron coronavirus variant. Of the 72 confirmed cases, 39 were found in testing at the airport and 33 inside the loop, organizers have said. The Games are set to take place from 4 to 20 February inside a closed-loop bubble that separates all event personnel from the public. Designated gate position, areas, pathways, and lines have been set up at Beijing Capital International Airport, the entry point for overseas Olympic participants, to form a complete closed loop. These designated areas are completely separated from other areas, and Games-related personnel will not have any intersection with ordinary passengers. All personnel in the closed loop are required to use Games dedicated vehicle between designated places without any contact with people outside the loop and local citizens. Beijing 2022 organizers have stressed that there is no widespread infection inside the closed loop and the epidemic is under control. Participants in the bubble area subject to daily testing, with 336,421 PCR tests administered from January 4 to January 22. The chair of the Beijing 2022 Medical Expert Panel, Brian Max Klosky, have said that the number were consistent with those at last summer Tokyo Game and in line with expectations. All game participants need 2 negative PCR test results within 96 hours of their departure to China, and most are traveling on specially arranged charter flights. Those who have a confirmed positive test will not be allowed to compete or continue their role. If symptomatic, they will ask to stay at the designated hospital for treatment. If asymptomatic, they will be asked to stay in an isolated facility. There will be accessible rooms and experienced on-site personnel to assist with daily care tasks for those who require it. Those who are asymptomatic will return to their Games time role after being discharged from isolation, and confirmed cases will resume their Games time role after recovery and will be asked to adopt additional countermeasures. Last week, organizers have said that the ticket for the Olympic would not be sold to the general public due to COVID-19 and would instead be distributed to groups of people who would be required to undertake strict prevention measures before, during and after attending events. China has managed to contain domestic outbreak of COVID-19 since it first emerged in the central city of Wuhan and has all but shut its border to international arrivals. On Sunday, Beijing city government has introduced further measures to contain COVID-19 after finding 9 local transmitted cases the previous day.
And now for a look at how the weather will be playing out tomorrow. finally, a sweet and cuddly mayhem. It's teddy bear toss time. Hershey Bears fans let the stuffed animals fly in world record fashion as thousands of stuffed animals were gathered for charity as the Hershey Bears held their teddy bear toss event on Saturday night in Pennsylvania.
Bears fly.
The Bears, an American Hockey League affiliate of the National Hockey League's Washington Capitals, last held the event in 2019 and have so far collected 45,650 stuffed toys that were thrown onto the ice. The toss was triggered by the first Bears goal of the game, which came in the first period when Axel Jonsson-Fjällby scored on the power play. The Bears went on to defeat the Hartford Wolfpack 5-0. The Hershey Bears hosted its annual teddy bear toss game on Saturday night, where well-equipped fans entered the Giant Center with bags full of plush animals and eagerly waited for the highly anticipated time of the toss following the first goal. The Bears forward, Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, opened the scoring on the power play and went on to defeat the Hartford Wolfpack, opening up the floodgates to thousands of stuffed animals sailing over onto the ice.
Todd chucked all of his Bears already.
Thank you for watching the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, you can check out our website eacnews.asia or search EAC News on Telegram or at your favorite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We will see you then.